Hey guys, welcome back. Now that you've completed your resume, it's time to start thinking about the interview process. You can find the mock interview project in the same tab as before, that Career Action Plan tab, and then scroll all the way down to Prepare for the Interview. At this point, you should have completed tasks 1, 2, and 3 and have a pretty good idea of how to interview for a job. Once you've done those, the project starts in task number 4. And there are a couple of different documents here that you need to look at. The first one is the instructions, which lays it all out for you, so make sure you read that one thoroughly. Then you'll see the interview questions that you will be asked. You'll see a document that your interviewer will have to fill out. So you can either print this or you can make a copy of it, and the person who interviews you needs to fill this out while they ask you the questions and take notes on your responses to give you some feedback. The next thing is your reflection and then a follow-up letter. So once you're done with the interview, you're not only going to assess yourself and tell me how you think you did, but you're also going to send a thank you letter to your interviewer. Now, you might not actually send it to them. You're going to send it to me or fill out that document so I could see what you would say in that situation. So let's get started. Again, if you're on the agenda tab and you're looking at the project, it is all right here under the mock interview project, and this is worth 41 points, and the interview questions are weighted the heaviest because those are the most important. Your reflection and your follow-up letter are both worth 10 points, and as you can see, I'm not really giving you a grade on how the interview goes. I'm giving you a grade on how well you prepare for it and how well you can reflect and explain how you think you did. So let's get started. The first thing I want you to do is click on the instructions. And again, always read this thoroughly. I tried to make it as easy as possible and break it down into steps. So the first part of this project is typing up responses to your mock interview questions. So let's click on that. Your mock interview questions contain 7 different questions that will give me a good idea of how well you can interview. I tried to make the questions, I tried to start with an easy question like, tell me a little bit about yourself, and then they move on to some tougher questions where you need to really come up with some good examples and think about the stuff that you've accomplished. No matter what the question is, your response, your typed response, needs to be at least 3 to 5 sentences, at least. And that's because with each question, you need to provide an example, and those examples are going to come from your life experience, your work experience, the things you've done in school, and you need to be able to connect that example, that experience, with a skill or a personality trait that you possess. And all of this needs to relate to your work objective. So again, going back to your resume, you wrote a resume already for a job that you're interested in. You're now interviewing for that same position. So if we use our camp counselor as our example, I want to make sure that as I talk and explain my experiences and the things I've accomplished, that I'm really focusing on qualities and skills that would serve me well as a camp counselor. The key to all of this, no matter what, is to tell a story. The interviewer wants to know what you've already done, what you've already accomplished. So it makes sense to draw upon past experiences. They don't want to know what you promised to do in the future. So, for example, and I broke it down by questions. If the question you start with is tell me about yourself, this is where you're going to tell the interviewer at least 3 things about yourself, including personality traits and interests, values, and skills. In order to fully answer this question, you need evidence of that. So if you say you're a very motivated person, you need to give me an example when you proved that you are motivated. Okay? Now, I ask that you underline your evidence so that I can see it clearly. As long as I know that you have fully answered the question, that's not necessary, but if you want to do that, it really helps me out when I'm looking at your responses. So back to this document. The 7 questions listed here, you can just, they are listed here. You can just make a copy of this document and write your answer underneath each question, or you can copy and paste those 7 questions into a new document. It doesn't matter to me. Just make sure that you have fully answered them. Each question is worth 3 points, meaning that you've answered it, you've provided an example, and evidence that relates to your work objective, for a total of 21 points. After you've answered the mock interview questions, you want to practice answering those questions out loud. It makes a huge difference between saying it in your head or reading those questions off the page and actually saying them out loud. Look at yourself in the mirror and watch yourself speak. Practice saying words that you usually struggle with. If you have a word in your response that you can't pronounce, then find a new word. But practice makes perfect, and that's the key to interviewing. Practice, practice, practice. When you're ready, you're going to ask an adult to interview you. It's their job to just ask you those 7 questions in this simulation. The more serious you take it, the better you're going to do. Keep in mind that this person, this adult, needs to be somebody who's 21 or over, and they have to currently have a job. So they have had to have interviewed for a job. It could be an older sibling or cousin. It could be, even better, one of your parents. And while you interview, they're going to take notes. They need to give you feedback on what you did and how you can improve. And you're going to use these notes when you reflect and when you do your follow-up. So you want to make sure that they've taken good notes and they give them to you. Your interviewer must also email your instructor to verify that that interview took place. So if I'm receiving an email from the person that interviewed you, make sure that they put your last name in the subject line in mock interview so that I know that you are the person they interviewed. If they just put their name, I might not be able to connect the two. In their email, they need to just give me a brief description, including their name in relationship to you, and when and where the interview took place, and a short summary of what took place. After the interview, you're going to reflect on your experience. So you're going to use this reflection form, and it's just a series of questions. You can write a paragraph, or you can write a separate response for each one of these questions. You can add anything else that you want here that I may not have included. It doesn't matter to me as long as I fully have an idea of how well you prepared. Did you take it seriously? How you acted in the interview, meaning did you fidget? Did you make good eye contact? And then evaluate yourself and how you answered the questions. The last step is to write a follow-up letter. A follow-up letter, the purpose of a follow-up letter is to not only thank the interviewer, but more importantly, to make sure that you are on the top of their mind when they are trying to decide whether or not to hire you. So you want to make sure that in this letter, you thank them for meeting with you, but reiterate your interest in the position, highlight your skills and your experiences, but most importantly, take the opportunity to give them any additional information that you may have forgotten to discuss in the interview. So I've provided an example for you. You can use this as a guide, but please do not, I emphasize, do not use this language in your follow-up letter. It is very easy to tell if you just copy and paste and put your information in here. This is just simply an example of one of many follow-up letters. This is something that you can Google and find more examples of, or you can just write it purely from your experience. You're going to start your follow-up letter by, again, thanking them for the interview. You're going to highlight some of the things that were discussed in the interview, and you're going to make sure you mention anything else that you may have forgotten, and then close your letter, and that's all. So this is it for your mock interview project. Like I said, the main parts are the mock interview questions, so that's number 1. Actually conducting the interview, and then reflecting and doing the follow-up letter. And that's it. If you have any questions, please email your instructor. Good luck.